Okay, hello everyone. So I am from a location in another country today. So this is the last thing I'm doing before switching off for the week and disconnecting. But the good news is that Gervir is now at the helm. So Gervir has come back full time. So any questions you've got, it's going to be him dealing with it this week while I sit back and relax. So I'm just going to send out the email now just to get everybody to know that this is happening. And then I'll jump back on here again. So as always, any questions, let us know in the comments. I'm also in a hotel reception right now, so it's very noisy. I apologize for that. I'm just going to move again. The Hoover is following me. Those of you who are paying attention, you might be able to work out which country I'm in from my surroundings. It's a little bit stalkerish, but see if you can work that out. Okay. Now I'm guessing that this is still pretty noisy in the background with the Hoover. There's not too much I can do. We just send out this email. Okay, schedule. And sorry, and apply that. Okay. So we'll send this to Go. We can now get him to join live. This Wi-Fi is terribly slow. Sorry. Okay, someone's here. Okay. Oh, I see a comment. Is that me? Morning, Jay. How's it going? If you've got any questions, let me know. So, as I mentioned earlier, so I am on holiday at the moment. So, I didn't get the system set up properly enough in order for me to not run this. So, this is from a hotel reception where they're currently doing the Hoover. So, sorry if that's in the background. So, any questions you got? Any questions you got about AHQ? Anything we're doing? Drop in the comments. So I've just put it on. I was going to put it on Instagram as well. Let me do that. So I can share your comment there as well. There you go. Give you a little shout out. Okay. Let's go. So I need that. So Jay's also is sitting in an airport heading back home. Where'd you go to? So feel free to just chat. This doesn't have to be a formal thing, this little live. So it's an easy way for lots of people to grab me at a time where, so for the rest of this week, after this hour, I'm not answering anybody until I get back home again next week. So I had TEDx Chigwell on Saturday, and I'll show you my Whoop stats from that day. So where are we? Stress. So my stress on Saturday, I had 8 hours of high stress while I was doing that event. So I need this little break now. So I was getting the BrainPick image. Where's the BrainPick image? If I go to YouTube. Okay. I'm also kind of surprised that this Wi-Fi is holding up. So Also, if you are on your flight now and you're about to get on, we've just released that episode with Kishan Bawad on product mindset. So have a listen to that on your flight home. I can just see that's gone live. So let me grab this. AHQ. So I need to start. So my idea with this is I should be sending this out before it actually goes live. And if I do that, then we should get a lot more people there at the beginning. Whereas what tends to happen, it tends to get busier as we go through. So Jay, did you have a business trip, personal trip? What was it? Yeah, I find it extremely hard to take a break as a founder. And this is one of the things that I'm trying to work on quite a lot. So since the BayHQ was launched, this is the first time I'm taking more than a day off in a row. And even then you can see this, well, yesterday I landed, today I'm doing work, right? I'm here. So the idea is the rest of the week, I'm not going to do anything. And let's see if I can stick to that or not. So I've got my out of office on. One of the challenges I have is because a lot of people contact me on WhatsApp. I can get business WhatsApp, but then I need to sort that out. And that's a challenge because if a lot of people are messaging me in more semi-business, semi-casual way, how do I basically tell them I'm just going to ignore people this week? And I guess if anybody gets annoyed at me, they get annoyed at me taking a break, then I probably don't want to be friends with them anyway. And that's where I kind of consider it. What does help is obviously I have the co-founder, so Gervir, and it's worked out that he's come back full-time this week, which means that any problems that come up, then obviously we don't have the same skill set, but he can at least handle it. Like there should be very few reasons why I'm needed to be contacted. Things will break this week, like 100%, because there's stuff that only I know how to do, Gervir hasn't done yet. But things will survive. Like I'm not a doctor, I'm not saving lives. And even obviously doctors need to take breaks. So I see it as this is a 30-year, 40-year company or organization. If I don't take a break now, I'm not going to be here in 30 years. And it sounds dramatic, but if you look at some of the stats, I've looked at my health recently. I've put on weight, I don't train as much, I don't breathe properly, all of these kind of things. And I can't run the BayHQ properly if I'm not looking after myself as well. So one, I should be doing it because life is more important than anything I'm doing anyway. But from a cold hard business perspective, me taking a break, any founder taking a break, is good for the business. And one of the things that some investors started doing now, for example, Balderton, is making sure that if you're going to do it, then you should have, if they're going to invest in you, they ask you to take coaching, they ask you to take other things, which allows you to take that break because they realize it's very important. If the founder is burnt out, the company goes down the drain. So yeah, I can be quite honest about that. I find it really hard, but I know how important it is. And I'm trying to be less of a hypocrite. So this is why I'm on holiday now. And you should see, hopefully you see that. So I'm scheduled a couple of posts out. So it might look like I've written stuff now, but it's all been done in advance. But yeah, this week, I'm just taking a break as much as I can. Yeah. The interesting thing is, for me, is obviously there's a different circumstance. But after my dad passed away, that's why I basically stopped looking after myself. Before then, I read a lot of fiction, I did a lot of things, I did yoga, I did all these different things. But once that kind of grief hit, then it broke all of my systems because now I needed the work essentially to distract myself. And I think, yeah, reading fiction is very good. Like even watching Netflix, but watching dumb stuff on Netflix. And one of the ways I categorize things now is there's two types of fun, right? There's intellectual fun. So people like I enjoy what I do, yes, but there's a difference between me enjoying working versus me playing football or me just having a laugh with mates. And what a lot of people don't realize is that you can enjoy what you do, yes, but you still need a release. You still need just dumb, stupid fun where there's no productive side of it at all. And if you don't have that, you're going to burn out sooner or later. You can't only enjoy what your work is. You have to have more than that. So for me, that's dance. There's loads of different things you can do. And it's just a case of making the time for it and really prioritizing it. Have you got any good recommendations of fiction books, by the way? Drop them in the comments. So I should be doing this as well so you guys can see the comments. This is from Jay as well. His recommendation of how to distract yourself. Because I think it's one of these stupid hustle mentalities that if you enjoy what you do, then you never work a day in your life. Like, yes, you do. Like, there is no way you enjoy what you do so much that it's not sometimes a strain, that's not sometimes overwhelm. You've got to take a break. Even, for example, like Nelson Mandela, he used to do, well, he obviously was in prison for a long time, but while he was in prison, he used to have workouts, he used to do his routine, he used to have things that were for his own mental health. He wasn't constantly sitting there thinking about his mission. And I think that's a false idea that a lot of people have in their heads, that you have to have this burning sense of mission every single second of your life. If you do that, it's gonna like take years off your life. Reading the 10th Avatar. You can drop the link in the comments, by the way, to that, because I don't think I've heard of that before. So what's good about this, obviously, is a lot of people might message me about going for coffee or going for meeting up. And one of the challenges, as we've just talked about, is how difficult it is in terms of balancing time as a founder. So for me, this is a great way to talk to people without needing to have a separate call with everybody, because obviously that takes up a lot of time, which puts extra stress on top of me. So this is one of the things I'm doing for my own mental health, is by grouping people together like this so that they can all ask me questions at once. Then that should give me more time for myself. In theory, at least. Obviously, a lot of people ignore that and want to go for coffee anyway. But at least I'm trying. I'm just adding this link to my stories. Also, so Jay, I know you're responding. So, so I've changed the name of this from AMA because I've realized I know what AMA means, but a lot of people don't know what AMA means. So AMA was Ask Me Anything. But if you don't know what that means, then you don't know what this is. So we changed it to Brain Pick and Chill, because that's what a lot of people message me saying, I'd love to pick your brains. And by changing that, it also reduces dependence on me too, because next week, Gervais could be doing this. Next week, it could be like Dimple or Jay or somebody from our board or one of our ambassadors. And that also makes it more dynamic, and it stops it from being that I have to be here like today, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. every week. And it also includes more people. If I've sent Gervais the link, for example, so Gervais might join me as well, and we can just have a chat. And then you guys are getting this more casual, informal thing. And if people are asking questions who are listening, then there might be a few of us on this call in the future rather than just me. And obviously, it's more useful generally to have different viewpoints when you're trying to learn. So let me know what you think of that. Like, it's one of the things people forget is that I'm constantly iterating. I'm saying, okay, let's try this idea. Did it work? Did it not work? How can I make it better? And then going from there. And often what happens is that I might know there's a better way to do something, but I don't do it because I see that was just resource constraints. So, for example, next week, I keep saying this every week, to be fair, that the newsletter to be sent out by our assistant. And that's what should be happening. That should be the proper process. But in order for me to do that, I need to create the instructions. And because it's not an urgent thing, I always end up putting it off. And because I do that, I create more pressure on myself. So that's one of the process things where sometimes people might look at what I'm doing, or look what other creators are doing, or other people in this industry. And often we're doing things that we know are suboptimal, but we just have resource constraints, and that's what we're on top of. Okay, so Jay's a fan of that, which I like. More open. You could do it 2 people each time with a chat podcast style. I think one of the ideas is that it can be, so one of the things we're launching is, let me show that comment. Why is it not showing on the screen? So what Jay said there is that we could have 2 people each time, but one of the ideas is to make it more casual where it's less organized. Okay, so my hotel Wi-Fi was very good there. So I'm back. I don't know if people dropped off there. So I don't know if you heard the last things I was saying, but what I said there is, okay, so let's see the comment. So Jay said, there you go. It's more open. Could do it with 2 people each time we have a chat podcast style. Now the challenge is if we do it that style, is that I then have to have the organization in place again, right? Whereas the idea that was quite nice behind this is that if a bunch of people have the link of the backstage, that would be me, Gervin, Jay, Jay Gujral, sorry, Dimple Patel, and a few others. That means that whoever drops in, and it can be more relaxed rather than having people commit to a certain time. And as we launch the ambassador scheme, the ambassadors can join this too. And I guess at the launch will be maybe 10 to 20 ambassadors. And it's just whoever's free and wants to join can jump in. And that way it makes it much more relaxed and casual. Whereas if I need to worry about making sure there's 2 people for the full hour, then it becomes like the podcast level stress of like, is people free? What's going on here? So it can be kind of like that roulette thing that some people drop in for the first half an hour, some people drop in later on. And next week, obviously, I'm not on holiday, so I can make this a bit better. But it's interesting how it varies quite a lot week to week at the moment. And part of that is because of when I send out the link, it's partly because of what's happening that day. It's partly like lots of different reasons. So today is a bit quieter than usual. I'm not sure exactly why. I don't know if I sent the wrong link or something in the email probably. But yeah, that's all there and it can be adjusted. Take a look at the side. Yeah, so at the moment I'm using StreamYard. So shout out to Dave Schools. So Dave Schools is the number 2 at Hopin. So Hopin is, they sold what their original company was, But basically, I get to use StreamYard for free because I know the guy at the top. So StreamYard basically does the same thing. I don't know if I can show you. So I can show you what I see. Okay. So if you see, I've got this little, I do it from here. So I can see your comments on the side, but down at the bottom there, people can join and I could add them across there. So I record the virtual podcast in using StreamYard as well. And yeah, that's all. It's StreamYard basically the same as Riverside. So it just means I don't have to pay, which is nice. But I don't know if Dave knows that. So I don't know if the guy knows that I use it for HQ stuff as well as Entrepreneur's Handbook. But what he doesn't know can't hurt him. So yeah, I guess with people looking at the stuff I'm doing here, so StreamYard is actually a really good tool. I don't actually know how much it costs because I never paid for it. But for example, I used this for the TEDx event yesterday. Sorry. So even for example, one of the things I've done, so you've got this was TEDx yesterday, was coming from here as well. So I could add overlay when people are speaking and then hide it again. Like that. So when I get people to join the podcast, I put this frame overlay. So I told them, okay, you want to be like, here is perfect. So I can censor them. Here you can see the original Entrepreneur's Handbook thing there, which I don't really use anymore. I could add background music. Actually, background music would be a good idea because it's got like a coffee kind of vibe. So let me add background music. You can see like acoustic, cinematic. Let's see what this one does. I can't get it here. This one's called Feeding the Ducks. I want to see what this one sounds like. This is a bit too dance party vibes. Okay, let's find a good one. So you know what I'm thinking? You know when you get to YouTube and you see this coffee shop music, into space, night driving. What's this? Yeah, that's the idea of this. So what Jay said here is basically when I'm more organized, this is what it's going to be. So the idea is I'll go through the newsletter that I send out. So I'll read that. So if you're going to leave now, I'll read that out now. Everything that's going on there. And one of the challenges is on the average week, there's not necessarily enough news for British entrepreneurs. So there might not be too many updates there. And that's one of the things we're working on. So we've got different sources of information there. So the news will be launching soon. We just need to make sure we have enough to make it valuable. I'm trying to think of nobody's raised money this week, off the top of my head. I think it was Aquaman. So that's Chandani, and I think she raised 3.5 million. But yeah, we can definitely do stuff like that. And the idea is, like I said, what we do in the future is make this much more where it's going to be more organized. So if I do that now, so let me just change this music, it's a bit too loud. Okay, so what I can do now is just read through the newsletter and what's been happening. So okay, so this is the updates this week. So Pepe's, guess who's back full time? So Gerber, our co-founder, is officially back full time. as you can imagine, it makes a massive difference to us behind the scenes. That means our ability to serve you is much higher. We also finalised our lineup for our next event, so you don't want to miss out. The details are further down. So the details for that is going to be Barclays Rise, the 8th of November, so it's only a couple of weeks away. So it's going to be Nitya Gupta, who's an investor at Element Ventures, who's a fintech expert. It's Nina Mohanty, who's the founder of Bloom, who's been on the podcast already. And then it's Matt Ong, the founder of Control Alt, who's also been on the podcast. And the theme is all around financial, so tech to help financial inclusion. So what this means is that a lot of traditional financial instruments, say hedge funds, they're all aimed at generally very, very rich people, and it's not very accessible to the average person. What a lot of people in fintech are now doing, and you've seen with Monzo, Revolut, is trying to increase that service and trying to make it so the average person has good access to things. So what Nina is focusing on is people who've moved to this country and giving them that financial education about, say, for example, if you just moved to the country, would you know to do an ISA? Would you know all these different things? There's an educational element. There's also that app to help people to do it and that software behind it too. Then Matt has got Control Alt. And what that does is allow people to invest in alternative investments a lot easier. So generally you'd had to have a large amount of money in order to invest in some of these things. Whereas what it's doing is using the blockchain in order to help people to do that. And then Nitya, obviously, as an investor, is looking at a lot of these companies and seeing this revolution from the investor side, which will give people who are looking to raise money that really good perspective into what's an investor looking into if you're trying to tackle a problem like what they're trying to tackle. So I'm currently on holiday and I'm meant to be offline right now, but I'm going to disconnect properly after this video, but I just wanted to keep it going and show that commitment. And I also just wanted to see what's been happening. So I had a big game Saturday when TEDx Chigwell happened. So we had 10 speakers. There was lots of little things that went wrong that we had to adjust to. So very stressful day for me. And I'm really glad that I've now got this little break. But 3 of our podcast guests appeared. So it's Joel Gudrao, Tanya Sahar Gupta, and Varun Banot. And what I've been able to do for a lot of stuff I'm doing is give people that platform. And TEDx is another way to do that. So I'm imagining a lot of people already are emailing me, messaging me about appearing at a future event. And at the moment, I need to just get this one approved so that I can do future events. If I can do future events, then obviously I'll open up again and ask people to submit themselves in order to submit their applications, not themselves, to come and speak. So on the podcast last week, we had 3 episodes. So we had Zain Ali, who's the founder and CEO of Centuria Global, and he went from being an IP lawyer to building a startup now active in 170 countries. And what he basically saw is it's very difficult for startups and companies or enterprises, even like all levels of businesses, to launch another company in launch another country. So what his app does, it gives you all the advice you need, and in like it's got a database and it tells you these are the different regulations you need to meet in a way that's very accessible and easy, because otherwise you'd have to search all these countries' websites, and they're all in different ways, which is a very difficult thing to do. And then he also recommends local providers who can help you along that process if you need more help. Then we released the event episode with Safwan Adam, who's a franchisee with CEX, so right at home, and is also on the board of the British Franchise Association. And he talks about building a franchising empire starting at 25. So that was a live episode that we did at the NEC in Birmingham at the National Franchise Exhibition. And Saf is a very charismatic guy, very good person to have at that live audience. And you can just see that he was really being honest and truthful about all the mistakes he'd made and where he'd learned from. Then last but not least, we had Neda Sahiblem, who's the founder of Kashti, and she was previously the head of data programs at Multiverse. And that's a lab episode, which is about how to scale out the chaos. So she introduced different frameworks you can use in order to help yourself grow your business without all of the chaos associated with that. So one of those was called Chaos, with sort of a K, and it's about what you keep, what you automate, what you outsource. And for the S, you're going to have to watch the episode because I've forgotten. So I mentioned we've got our event coming up, so make sure you sign up to that. I'll even put the link in the comments now for you if it loads. Oh, the loads will carry on. So there's also a lot of events this week, seemingly. So if I run through some of those, you've got Rise FinTech Mentoring tomorrow. You've got How to Build Your First Sales Team. You've got London Data Visualization. You've got Startup Essentials, Pricing and Invoicing. That's by Hatch Enterprise. You've got the London Startup Scene Networking Open Mic Pitching event. That's free. Indie Biz. So Indie Biz is a community of people who create their own products but generally don't raise funding. So they just bootstrap. And it's generally in the software space. That's a good bunch of people. It's usually the Bricklayers Arms. You've also got the AI Hack and Demo Night in London, the London Impact Tech Kickoff, the ETH London Kickoff, another one by Hatch, which is Startup Essentials, Money for Neurodivergent Minds. You've got a pitch competition, which is at UCL, so that's Eurasian Business Society and UCL Innovation Enterprise. Then you've got Taking Your Startup Abroad, what you need to know about international expansion. That's by Sea Beagles. Then you've got City Seats and City Hindus. In Parliament, that's Empowered Voices, Inspirational Journeys of Women. And then finally, you've got Indian Designers in London Meetup on Saturday. Then there's a ton of jobs available. So if you're looking for a job right now, a startup owned by British Asian, here are some of your options. So you've got City, Digital and Social Content Manager, Amalia, Social Media Marketing Manager. Block Dojo is Early Stage Founder and CEO at Startup Venture. So Block Dojo is an accelerator. So what they're looking for is startup founders that they're going to then invest in and help to grow further. Odin are looking for a customer success manager. Why Hungry are looking for an experienced email marketer, mid-senior software engineer, junior operations manager. Nala are looking for a head of finance, a head of people and talent, a treasury and FX manager, a back-end engineer. Then Hive are looking for a back-end engineer, a customer experience manager, a front-end engineer, a head of capacity and planning, a payroll administrator, a people operations officer, a junior backend engineer. Then Click are looking for a business development manager, Autogen AI looking for an account manager, a program manager, a user coach bid writing professional. And then CHR Life Sciences are looking for recruitment consultants. So that's all of the updates from the newsletter this week. There's plenty of things that happened last week, but it was very much a blur for me. I interviewed 2 people for the Bay HQ for the Founders podcast. That was Salim Chowdhury. That will be coming out next week. And Salim was incredible. Like, he sold 2 businesses and both, combined for 200 million. He was then a partner at 500 startups before leading Techstars Accelerator. So lots of people who've been on the podcast have been helped by him. Then on Friday, we had our first ever unicorn founder. So Unicorn is $1 billion company before it goes public. And that was Hussein Kasai. And Hussein founded Onfido. If you've got a bank account and you've a digital bank account, you probably use Onfido to check your details and register yourself. So what I'm doing here is reading a newsletter, but you want to make sure that you sign up. So that's going to be the best way to keep up with what we're doing. You can also join our WhatsApp community. That link is in the newsletter. There's different ways of getting featured by us now. So you can either join the podcast for the Founders podcast is only if you have either 1 million fundraised or 5 million in revenue. But you can also get featured in Baywatch. Baywatch is launching when I get back. And that's for people who are lower than that number, but who expect to be there in the next 3 years. You can send us your pitch deck. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. Obviously, I think for this as well, you need to subscribe to us for at least 20 minutes before you can ask a question. And the idea behind that is to kind of stop the bots and the scammers. And make sure you follow us on LinkedIn too and become our friends there. So I haven't been on the screen. Let's have a look. We've got some comments in. So, Jay. Okay, so Jay, cool. Launching free, need to say. Okay, nice. Okay, so Jay has said, we're looking for a junior Python developer. How can I add Fabio to this list? So how you add Fabio to this list is you've told me. So what I'm going to now do is tell our assistant to add it to the list. So how we're doing this is very low tech. It is just minimum viable product. So we have a bunch of different companies who've got alerts set up for. And when those alerts go up, then we go up. I wasn't subscribed, by the way, and could ask. So what could you ask, Jay? Wasn't sure what you mean there. So let me just get that. Where's that sign up link? So sign up link, I'm pretty sure is this. So I'm just going to type it out: www.thebayhq.com/join. So once you're in that newsletter as well, that gives you all the other links. So to be honest, I think even if you go to the job board itself, there should be a link there in order to add yourself to the job board. So Jay, if I'm correct as well, you're probably somebody who potentially could get featured in Baywatch. So consider that as well. So that'll be, if you go to the email signature, you should be able to see a bit more about that. Actually, saying that, I don't know if I've put that live yet, and I'm not going to put it live while I'm on holiday. So Baywatch is essentially going to ask you a bunch of questions. So it will be, for example, like, what's your traction? Why are you the perfect founder for your startup? And what we can then do is profile a bunch of people who are on the up. And it's how we help people on the up and not yet at the level where they can come on the podcast. And this one of the challenges now is, as we have people on, such as Hussein Kasai, who's founded $1 billion company, where the idea of the podcast is people who've scaled massively and can then give advice to people earlier on in their journey. I've received a payment of £9 from Stripe. That's exciting. I'm not sure what that is. Let me just put this here. I'll also add the link to financial inclusion through tech. So make sure you sign up to this event as well, everyone, because the best way to meet us, and one of the challenging things that happens now is that, obviously, because I'm on the stage, is that lots of people will try to talk to me afterwards. Remember that you've got Gerver as well. So Gerver is also my co-founder. So if you bug him with questions, you might be easier to get through to him than it might be to get through to me. So sorry about that, Gerver, but that's what one tactic you can use, right? Is Gerver's going to have generally a little bit less communication than I do. So if you reach out to him, you might be able to get a good response. So let me just have a look here. Okay, that's looking good. Put users in timeout, some ban users, which is quite interesting. So one of the things I can do, so is that gone again? No, I'm back. Okay, so any more questions, anyone? So what I'm also going to do next week, so this is me testing it out, so now I've got a good idea of what I'm going to be doing in the future. So I'm on holiday at the moment, so I'm not doing this properly. But next week, this will also be live on LinkedIn Live, which means that people who are subscribed to us on there will be able to see it too, which I imagine should get a greater audience. So one of the things I can do while we've got this last 2 minutes, I can talk about TEDx Chigwell and what happened there. Yeah, so TEDx Chigwell. So TEDx Chigwell is unaffiliated with Debate HQ, but what we're looking at here is obviously we now have a platform with a lot of different cool people that we can give different opportunities to. So TEDx, in order to organize a TEDx, you just literally go on the website and apply. It's a little bit of a long form, so a lot of people don't do it. But the other thing is it's not for profit. So it's a hell of a lot of work. So I didn't make any money out of it. I get all of the headache. And as the organizer, it's not really about you, right? So people talking about they want to organize it, right? I'd really be very cautious about that because one, if you've got other priorities, like you'd have to have like enough time to do it properly. And also when you get volunteers on board, then if they've got other stuff going on, they're going to prioritize our other stuff because this is a volunteering thing, right? So when looking at it, so what I did, so if I look at some of the mistakes I made, so first event, I got 10 speakers. 10 speakers is a lot to manage. What I also did is got different tiers of sponsors, but the challenge was I had too many different sponsors, which again makes a lot of work to manage that. So what I do is if you're going to organize a TEDx, make it way simpler. Do it on a weekday, have it only 3 or 4 speakers. It's a lot cheaper. You don't need as many sponsors, and just test it out and get it right that way. Whereas I went big first time and it worked out and everybody was very happy, but that put me under a lot of strain. And that strain, so I said, you can see like the massive, I can show you. So I got Whoop. So you can see this is my first day on holiday. I've got 97% recovery. But if you look at how I've been in the last month or 2, my stats have been terrible because one, the Bay HQ has been very busy, but secondly, it's also that I've been busy with TEDx, so I haven't really had any time to relax at all. So if you look at like the last month, you can see like, for example, the day of TEDx, look at that spike in my heart rate, my average heart rate. You can also see my, let's have a look, my sleep debt. So if you look at my sleep debt, for example, on average, I've got a high sleep debt, which means I can't perform my optimal level. So there's all these different things like indicators that show me that like I'm way too stressed generally, right? So again, look at total daily stress. So you can see here that outlier towards the end with the massive bit of orange, that's a TEDx day. Now you look at today, or I think that's yesterday, with that little bit of stress, that's me on holiday, okay? So what you see is TEDx is a lot of stress. It's not easy, and it's not something you should just organize on a whim. There is a lot of different rules, and I can understand why those rules are there because TEDx has a strong brand and they want to protect that. But as an organizer, it limits you in a lot of different ways. So you need to be very, very careful about organizing a TEDx event. And then as a TEDx speaker, because I get constant messages about people wanting to talk, most people have got terrible pitches, right? Because what they're trying to do is promote themselves. With TEDx, it's meant to be about the idea. What's your idea that's world-changing, right? So look at people I picked. So Dwayne Chambers, the Olympic athlete who got caught for doping and came back from it, he spoke about how he came back from, like, what was the mental model he used to come back from being the bottom, like rock bottom of like everybody in the world knows you're a cheater, him admitting as a cheater, and then being able to come back to the position he is, which now is inspiring so many kids and young people. That was his mental model. Joel Goodrow talked about the link between the mind and the gut and how it's a concept that a lot of people don't really understand. And he talked about the science behind it and how you can do different techniques in order to help you. Then that was the idea, right? And a lot of people, they think about TEDx as one, to make themselves look good on LinkedIn. And to break the news to you, there's like hundreds of thousands of people who've done TEDx talks. Doing a TEDx, if you pitch me to come on the podcast and say, oh, I've done a TEDx talk, it's not going to help you. What it does do for the average person, it does give you an extra level of credibility, right? But if you're going to do a TEDx talk just so you can use it as a status symbol, it's probably not worth it for you. You've got to do it because you really have an idea that you believe in, that you want to put the message out there on. And as I go forwards with like picking people for the future, that's what it's going to be about. It's like, just have an actual idea here that's really clear, really succinct, that the audience is going to love. And that's the key criteria. Because a lot of people said like, oh, I've got a really good story. It's like, this isn't about you. And that's one of the challenges for a lot of the TEDx stuff, is that it's about an idea, not about you. So if you can come up with an idea that's really powerful, research back, evidence back, like has something behind it, that's what's going to stand you in better stead. And also, if you think about the average, I probably got well over a few hundred messages of people wanting to come and speak at TEDx. So in order to stand out, you've got to just really do the work. And for example, if somebody did the entire talk and delivered it and was ready by the time the application comes through, you've made my life easy. And that's what a lot of people forget. It's like, I don't want to go for a coffee with everybody who wants to do a TEDx talk. I don't want to have a call with everybody who wants to do a TEDx talk. There's way too many people. What I want to do is see that you're prepared and you're ready. So yeah, that's just a little insight there. And everyone loved the event on the day. And I think what I learned is just I can make it a lot simpler and a lot easier. And it's advice I give anybody in a startup as well, right? Always think about the minimum viable product rather than trying to make it amazing on day one. Soft launch it, make it less of a big deal, get it right, get the logistics done. As you've got it right, you've got some happy customers, then expand and then do more. And that's the idea there. So we've got 4 minutes left. So if anyone has any questions, then let me know. So as I'm on holiday, I might just wrap this up. So thank you everybody for listening today and take care.